Welcome back, and we now introduce onto the set Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua, Member of Parliament for Gishugu. Mheshimiwa, sorry about the delay. Must have been out on a campaign trail or something.
No, I just got up by traffic jam on Kiambu Road, although I came very late in the night from Nakuru. Yeah.
It's a pleasure you're here. We are still expecting Mheshimiwa Joe Mtambu, Member of Parliament for Mwingi Central, but we have on the set Norman Magaya, advocate and a member of the secretariat at the NASA Secretariat, and of course Mheshimiwa Jonathan Mweke, Deputy Governor, Nairobi. Earlier on, gentlemen, Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua, we were looking at 35 days to the big day, 8th August. In the last 30 days, Jubilee have had 200 rallies in 30 days, average of about 7 rallies per day, including stopovers, behind the scenes meetings and all the rest. We are looking at a situation where they have a packed schedule ahead in the next 35 days. Do you think there's going to be anything different in the last 35 days for both Jubilee and NASA?
First, I would like to say that this is a campaign time, and we are actually fighting for office, both Jubilee and NASA. So it's a time to put your best foot forward. So having 200 rallies in 1 month is not unusual. In fact, I was hoping we could have done more. And in fact, if you put together the rallies held by the president, the deputy, and the other teams working along with him, there will be more than that. I also see that NASA is not resting. There's no single day where they have no NASA meetings and they are equally busy as we are. So this is what is happening, and that's going to happen for the next 35 days. So if you don't do this, then don't expect good results. So you have to put all your energies in it. The other thing is, I had the privilege of watching these 2 gentlemen who are talking before I entered the scene. And there was a notion that Jubilee is cornered. I don't expect anything different from them because of the side of divide they are. They're in NASA. So for them, the Jubilee must look cornered for them to make a case for NASA. But what I'm saying here is that let's wait for August 8th. Count the votes, know who will be president, who will be running the government, and whoever wins whoever loses, for the sake of this nation, must accept the results.
We'll be talking about in a short while. I asked the 2 gentlemen earlier before you came. We have 8% undecided votes, according to the latest opinion polls. Do you think, what is it that NASA or Jubilee will do to win the 8% differently?
First of all, 8% is unusual to have such a small percent of undecided voters normally at this time of the election, which means that as per now, the election is almost decided by the voters.
People have decided.
People have decided. The 8%.
According to opinion polls, people have decided.
They have decided because 8% is not within the statistical margin of error, but it's not far from it. So the trend will not change. So are
you like saying Kenyans have decided we are going for a rerun?
What I'm saying is possible go for a rerun, and if Jubilee is, according to the opinion polls, we are put at 48%. NASA is put at 43%. If Jubilee can build to snap 3%, 4%, there's no rerun, and that's what we're working towards. Yes.
Fair enough. We had set aside this issue of narratives to look at in details. I just mentioned it in passing, but there is the notion, according to NASA, that the IEBC is recruiting the police and to be poll officials. More on this is on page 5 of the Daily Nation. Now, the opposition coalition NASA has issued fresh demands to the Electoral Commission and called for a report on the qualification and work history of officers recruited to oversee the August elections. They are casting aspersions on the credibility of the people who are going to preside over the elections. And gentlemen, before we look at this, over the weekend there was a tweet by economist David Ndii that went viral on the issue of credibility of elections. My director, if we could just have it, he says, "Let me quote myself. If Uhuru Kenyatta is declared winner in another sham election, this country will burn." Various reactions. This tied with the issue of recruitment of poll officials. Jonathan, why is NASA so tight on this? Do you have any evidence of NASA?
Well, you don't just say things without having some sort of evidence. I'll tell you this. When voter registration was happening, here at KTTC in Westlands, we saw NYS personnel registering people to vote in full glaring uniform, guarded by the police. It was an issue. Our teams went out, made a fuss about it. People got arrested. The trucks were there. BVR kits were confiscated, over 200 of them. Then we went to Molem in Embakasi West. The same thing.
On the issue of KTTC, IEBC came out and said they had leased out the BVR kits to NYS to use for the youth engagement programs.
Timing. Why do you choose to do a youth engagement program when there is voter registration going on? And then why does IEBC lend out VBR voter registration kits while it didn't even have enough to do the registration? It's registration time. You've been given 30 days. You have to register as many voters as possible. You don't have capacity enough kits. Would you, as a manager, take several of those kits and lend them out to another agency unrelated to elections to do something that's completely unrelated to elections? That was the first hint. It happened again in Molem. Now Molem was even more queer because Jubilee Member of Parliament was involved. All the people on the line were from one community, and other youths from other communities who said we want to go to be enrolled for these jobs were not being let on the queue. What did that tell? That's one. Number two, look at the register and the dead voters. We had an audit done. Yeah, in Nairobi alone, 200 people die every day. So you're saying in the entire country over 10 years, only 93,000 people who are dead were removed from the register. That's a problem. I'll give you an example a friend of mine sent the other day. A late friend of ours, schoolmate of ours, called Oneko. Yeah? Oneko passed away almost 7 to 8 years ago. Committed suicide in the United States. He went to get his ID with another schoolmate of ours. So the IDs follow each other with one number. So this schoolmate did the 70,000 registration confirmation, and guess what? Oneko's ID is assigned to somebody else.
So you people think this cleaning of the register was not done well?
Not even cleaning of the register. This somebody else's ID who's dead being assigned to another person from a different community. That's not just cleaning of a register, that's fraud.
Norman, you sit at the secretariat. Before I hear from Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua from the other divide, you sit at the secretariat. All these aspersions that you're casting, have you people addressed them officially, or you just use them for political rallies?
First of all, there are no aspersions. What we talk about is what is happening. In relation to security officers being involved in the election process, it is not us saying. We have a section of security officers that have come to us to say our colleagues are involved in this thing, and they have given us names. So it's not noise we are making just for the sake of it. On the question of the register, we have been on this register for the last 1 year, engaging with IEBC. When KPMG came on board, we had our objections. We said they had no capacity to conduct an audit that was contemplated in law. Nevertheless, they were allowed to do it, and you can see the results. Even when KPMG was undertaking the audit, we asked them, what tools are you employing? Because if you have a process, and the law says that the objective of the audit was to ascertain the accuracy of the register, you must have tools that enable you, when you enter the data from the register, to conclude whether this register is accurate or not. When we asked KPMG to provide us with the tools they were using, they refused.
These are very pertinent issues you are raising.
Despite the fact that the law contemplated that in the interest of openness and transparency, that they will share this with stakeholders. They did it in a back room somewhere and only produced results. Now if you look at the abridged version of the KPMG report, it differs in very little way from the internal IEBC audit. In other words, what you have is a copy and paste work done by KPMG.
Quite pertinent issue. Now what everybody is asking out there
does not address, let me just conclude, that does not address the questions of the discrepancies we have raised on the register. 3 was that one of the objectives of that audit again was to look at the completeness of the data in the register. And what you are having now, within 2 hours of opening that code, I mean the discrepancies on lack of completeness of the data of the register remains an issue that has not been addressed. 4, 2013, we had questions of green books. The law now says that the register is biometric. The commission has not told us how these people who were captured in the green books have been transmitted, yes, to the biometric voter registration, because the register now is strictly biometric. That has not been done. And so what we have now is a register that is not credible, a register that cannot sustain this election. And this register is one of the things we are going to go to court to litigate on the integrity of this register, because you cannot have a free and fair election.
So you will be going to court as NASA?
As a matter of certainty, yes.
How about the issue of the recruitment of police officers as poll officials? Is it just a campaign issue, or have you raised it somewhere?
It's not a campaign issue. We went to court on the question of returning officers. And the judge asked IEBC, why will you go ahead unilaterally appoint returning officers when the law says that you must circulate this list to political parties for representation? Then put into consideration those representations before you make a final.
So at least they are official.
Yes, we were able to record a consent because the IEBC considered that they were in error. So those lists will be sent to us this week, and we will be able to flag out these guys.
Fair enough. Njogu Barua, because you gentlemen have raised quite a number of issues, has a chance to go double your time. Njogu,
That's okay.
There are these issues that they are raising quite pertinent, and they are saying this makes the whole process flawed. Are the concerns genuine from where you sit?
I can't say yes or no, but I can comment on the issues they are raising, because basically that's why we are here.
Even as you do that, like, would it be right to hire police officers as poll officials? Yes.
Yeah, I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's happening. Because my friend here is saying, when you ask me there are aspersions, he says there are no aspersions, but that's what's happening. So he's like speaking with a certainty, that's what's happening. So what you're having is an opposition which is overly suspicious, which has actually, to be honest, has no respect on the government of the day. So whatever happens, even if IBC does something, they think it's the government doing it. I want to assure them, from where we sit, IBC is an independent institution, and they are doing their work. So if they do their thing in one way or the other, they should not drag the name of us, their competitors, in that thing, because we need to have a fair competition.
Actually, they have not.
The other issue is that
they have not dragged Jubilee. They have said IEBC is doing.
I'm talking about aspersions. They are not talking about IEBC. They are talking about, they are referring to government by extension. Yeah. As I said, you see one cockroach, you know that there are many more hiding. So the other thing is that in terms of you see where you're coming from, and the ODM secretary, I mean, NASA secretary, are saying they are going to court. I don't see how you can go to court 35 days the elections and then expect a general election to take place, because the court is a rigorous process. The proceeding could go on until 35 days. So this assertion that they are not ready for election could be, maybe they are proving it right, proving us right that they are not ready for election. They are ready.
Actually, you're providing the narrative that we just want to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's like you're going to court because they have actually objected each and every step. Look at the IEBC, the one that we chased away. It was a demand of NASA. That time it was not NASA, it was CORD. And we considered and formed a committee which formed the electoral rolls and then the electoral bill, and also met and gave away for election for appointment of a new commission. Now we have a new commission which was agreed upon by both parties. At the same time they come and say this is not a neutral commission. What do they mean by neutral commission? How do they define it?
Are you satisfied with the voter register as released by KPMG? From where you sit?
I have not scrutinized it, but what I can tell you is that if there are errors, they are on both sides. They are not on one side.
So because they are on both sides, we should go ahead with it.
I may not say that whether I'm satisfied or not, but I think if there are mistakes, they should be corrected. But that does not have to take us to court. There are many other ways of doing it. When he says that the audit from KPMG was no different from the one by IEBC, of course it's just like accounting. In every department, we have internal auditors and external auditors. If the work has been good, you don't expect a big deviation from the results of the external and internal auditors. There's some element of convergence. So the fact that they converge to a large extent does not mean that the exercise was flawed.
Seeing as, and you have just said what the Deputy President said yesterday on Citizen TV about NASA not keen on elections on 8th August. How would Jubilee address these issues? 1, the voter register, and 2, the recruitment of police officers. 3, the voter registration process. that they raised issues glaring malpractices. How do you...
Those issues are squarely in the docket of IEBC. So IEBC should explain to Kenyans what is happening. So
you agree with them that IEBC should explain to Kenyans?
Exactly. If there are some issues raised by either party, IEBC should come clean and explain. But it's not a question of when an IEBC does something, then the two parties start fighting. We'll be taking this country backwards.
Norman and Jonathan, what Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua has just alluded to, that from the way you people keep going to the court with every issue, 35 days to an election, you are not really set for an August 8th election. And this is after the Deputy President, who was here last night with my colleague Hussein Mohammed, said this. Director, if you have the clip.
God willing, if you will. Which I don't know now what if this, because you're saying this, if I can ask you the next question, my question was, are you going to concede if you lose? Because there's a possibility. Are you going to concede, and under what circumstances are you going to concede if you lose?
President Kenyatta is on record. I think that question fits more our competitors than we do. President Kenyatta has said not once, not twice, that he and us are willing to respect the will of the people of Kenya.
Okay.
That we're very clear about. Our competitors are not, because they do not want an election fast on the 8th of August. They don't want an election.
They haven't said
that. That is why, the signs. They challenge every step of the way. They've gone to court to challenge the award of ballot papers because they think that by so challenging, the election date is going to move.
No,
these are people who are interested in a coalition government which is obtained out of confusion, not out of winning an election.
They're challenging the ballot paper tender because they say the company that has been given the tender, Al Ghurair, has been given out of connections with State House. And that case is in court.
Did they bring the evidence? They were asked in court to bring the evidence. They didn't have any.
Well, the case is still going on.
They didn't have any. And for your information, they have challenged literally everything. They didn't want the commission that they themselves appointed. We gave in unconstitutionally. We chased people away who are not guilty of doing anything. They challenged the BVR. They went to court. They challenged the issue of the chairman of Electoral Commission announcing results. They challenged the ballot papers.
Is there a problem with that?
They've challenged everything.
Is there a problem with challenging the issue of the Electoral Commission chairman announcing results?
We have the law says it is the chairman of the Electoral Commission. They've gone to court. They've said it should be at the
constituency level.
At the constituency level. We have no problem with it. We have said we can live with that.
Okay, you were credited by some quarters after the first day of the Jubilee nominations of coming in and restoring. I mean, you just steered the process. It was a completely shambles initially.
Of course, one or two facts not very right there from the Deputy President. The law does not say the chairman of the IEBC is the one who should announce the results as he, or rather who should do the tallying as he purports. But Mheshimiwa Njogu Barua, the same narrative that we are having here, they do not want elections. The last time they went to the CORD went to the streets, you people told them, why don't you go to court? Why don't you follow the due process of the law? Now they go to court, you say they want to delay elections.
First of all, there is a bit of similarity between what I've said and what he said.
Actually, it's all similar.
It's all similar, but I don't think I watched this clip yesterday. I mean, this show yesterday, because I actually was on the road. But mine is based on the timing. If you based on the history of our court process in Kenya, I don't think you can have such a serious case arbitrated within 30 days, unless there is an affirmative action to make it the only thing the court have to do to address the whole issue. What you are saying is that, what I'm saying here is that if you are going to court to challenge, we should go to court. NASA, for example, the one who's going to court, also with us, giving us Kenyans, we are going to court, and this is how we expect this to be expedited. And we also have to give Kenyans confidence that the elections will be held on August 8. Right now, they can go to court, there can be a ruling, or maybe on that fourth day. Then on that fifth day, there's an appeal. If there's an appeal, this country will be in a crisis. First and foremost, the 11th Parliament has died. I don't think I'm not sure whether it can be recalled to make any change. I don't think it's not possible. So this country will be in a crisis. And that's why we are saying this country must hold elections on August 8. And there must be
even if there's
there must be goodwill from both sides. This country is bigger than NASA. It's bigger than Jubilee. So the issue is that there must be goodwill. If there's something that people need to sit down and discuss, let them discuss.
Jonathan Mweshimiwa Barua here is saying, accept and move on. This country is bigger.
Yeah. You know, you must first understand the roles of the court in this country. The courts are there to interpret the law and ensure that those who break the law go to book. That's what the courts are there for. There's a lot of processes, I agree with what Mweshimiwa Barua has said, that you can follow before getting to the court of law. You get to a court of law when you have reached a last result. You've seen NASA engaging as a stakeholder, IEBC, on several occasions, saying, listen, what you guys are doing is against the law. When IEBC says accept and move on, we say no, it's against the law. Just because elections are 35 days doesn't mean that, and 35 days doesn't mean that you can break the law. It's not an excuse to break the law. So yes, IEBC broke the law by saying that only the chairman can tally and announce presidential results at a national level at Bomas of Kenya. That's against the law. Went to the High Court. The High Court said it's against the law. They appealed, went to the Court of Appeal. 3-judge bench said it's against the law. We won the case. How could we have accepted and moved on when somebody is breaking the law in our own knowledge? It would have been extremely irresponsible of NASA leadership to watch somebody break the law and do nothing about it. So that's why we're going to court. If everything is done as per the law, there is no open taking of sides, then we'll be good. I've seen the deputy president say that we sent innocent IEBC officials home. The former chairman of IEBC, Charles, said publicly that Raila is a perennial loser of elections. Now if you have Manu here and you have Chelsea here,
which one is
and the referee comes before he blows the whistle and says Chelsea can never win a game in England, do you think Chelsea will get on the game and on the field and play?
Fair enough. Must we go through this process, or would we rather have the elections on 8th and move on?
You see, I want to state it very clear and with finality, because it's a useless issue that keeps coming up. The Constitution dictates that the election be held on the 2nd Tuesday of August of every 5th year. No one is moving out away from that. We are very faithful, and we also to the dictates of the law. But we must also have an election that meets the standard set in law, and that standard is set out in Article 81, 86 and 138.
The same law that sets the date sets standards.
Yes, it sets standards, so that we are not just going for any kind of election. And you can understand why Jubilee is uncomfortable with the interrogation, and you'll agree that there has been no such pre-election interrogation process as thorough as it has been now. And it is very easy to deduce why Jubilee is uncomfortable, because what is happening is that most of these litigations are sealing, rigging loopholes, and that is what makes them uncomfortable. They said we've gone to court 11 times. Ask them, those 11 times, how many times have we lost? We've not lost any. Some of them, even Jubilee has applied to be enjoined as a party in those cases, and they have lost as a matter of fact. So we are not just going to court on frivolous applications, so to say. We go to court after meticulous planning, analyzing the law and gathering the facts. And we only go to court when we have made up our mind that it's not going to work out to engage in an out-of-court negotiation. And that is how we have managed to clean up the election process. And it's very important for Jubilee to acknowledge that the elections do not belong to IEBC. Elections are bigger than IEBC. Elections belong to all Kenyans. And we must have an election that satisfies the will of the people of Kenya. So we are not going to run away from conducting an election that meets the standards of being verifiable, accountable, credible, free and fair, just for the sake of ensuring that we have any kind of election on 8th of August. And I want to fully associate myself with the views of Dr. David Ndi, that we are not going to agree to go through any other sham election in this country. And it is better to interrogate the process of election right now and have a free and fair election than wait for the election to be messed up. Then you have only 14 days to interrogate issues at the Supreme Court, which either way is not going to give you
So what is NASA going to do? Should we reach 8th August, 35 days from now, and these issues have not been addressed?
No. We are very sure that so far we've actually had a big chunk of these issues addressed, and we are very confident. I can tell you that I have 3 more cases to go to interrogate the issues relating to the elections. And we have the
so we are yet to see the end of this.
And we have the time to do that in ensuring that we have streamlined an election system that can be able to reflect the wishes. And
my question is, should we come to 8th August and these issues have not been fully addressed?
No, they would have been resolved.
Should we be in that situation? What is NASA going to do?
They would have
anything is possible. Every coin has 2 sides.
No.
Could this be the reason why nobody in the top leadership of NASA has come out and said we will accept results?
No. You are wrong.
No, I'm asking.
You are wrong because you are wrong, and I can ask you to play even clips with the specific dates where the Right Honorable Raila Odinga has said that we are ready to concede defeat if the election is held in the standards set out in the Constitution. That has been very clear.
Yes,
because if it doesn't meet the standards set out in the Constitution, the same Constitution says go to the Supreme Court. And going to the Supreme Court means you have not conceded.
One citizen who has a right to the elections, like you and I, had a retweet, had a comment on David D's comment. If my director, if you have it, please just play, show us the clip on the tweet by David D again. As we wait for that, there you are. Look at Ndegwa Wakabi. Can you at least advise your teammates to let all and sundry know that they will accept defeat if they lose, without the but or if?
That is a personal opinion. Perhaps that is somebody
and that's a Kenyan?
Is a Kenyan
who has the right to the election.
But Kenya has a constitution. You get the right to participate in an election through the framework provided in the Constitution. And the same Constitution says, if you are not satisfied, you will go to court. And you will not go to court, you have not conceded.
So I think what NASA is doing is the age-old proverb of prevention is better than cure. Wakili Norman here has said the standards that we must uphold. You begin to see that there is not goodwill, just to mention Mheshimiwa Barua's sentiments earlier. You know, when the old IEBC went, we got a multi-party committee to decide on the new Elections Act. We agreed, both parties came together. It was headed by Senator Orengo and Senator Kiraitu. We agreed to go and pass that without even an amendment.
Dotting an I or crossing an
exactly. And it passed through the political divide. A few months later, Jubilee, using their tyranny of numbers, without reference to the opposition as a major stakeholder, went in and amended it to say that now you can use manual voting, you can do this and that and the other, and passed it using their tyranny of numbers. That's when now you begin to see that really there is no goodwill, and you begin to smell a rat. And the more you interrogate the process, the more you see loopholes, the more you seal them, so that you make sure, that's the only way to make sure that there are no ifs or buts, as we are talking about here. Because if everything is credible, the law is followed, the standards are met as set in the Constitution, then whoever loses will concede defeat. But it is if it's very clear there's a malpractice, that same Constitution allows you to say, hey, something went wrong, let's go to the Supreme Court. And that's why the ifs are coming. We'll concede if the process is free, fair, credible, transparent.
So I think that's coming out clear, Mheshimiwa Jogu Barua. NASA, Mheshimiwa Advocate Mogaya here.
But we said that we are going to win irrespective of rigging.
and so you allow them, in case you win and they are not satisfied,
they are free to go to court. We have no problem absolutely with that.
We'll be coming back after a short break, and when we come back, we look at the issue of impunity. At least it's clear now. Mheshimiwa Jogu Barua wants to say something. Okay, very quickly.
I just want to say that well, I want to comment about that bipartisan committee which came up with the electoral laws. First of all, it was actually usurping the powers of Parliament to bring a motion for debate and say that you cannot change a comma, you cannot add or subtract. In that case, and I was on this show, and they said that
was that the bipartisan committee that said that, or the principals?
The principals, actually.
Yeah.
The principals.
So it's the principals, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga.
I was on this show, and say that Parliament at that particular time was castrated. It could not do anything. That was completely wrong. When a motion is brought before the House is free to decide on how to handle the matter. So the issue of even having amended a comma or here, it doesn't arise.
So
the other issue
why did Parliament choose to amend these laws after passing them?
It was a recommittal.
In good faith?
It was a recommittal. It was after passing the way the Parliament was influenced by the principles, then some section was recommitted for debate. It is within the right of Parliament to do that. And actually, if you look at the voting patterns, a lot of CORD people supported the motion.
It was not a recommittal. The meeting to decide on this amendment, the meeting was held at State House, the Jubilee Parliamentary Group meeting. They were whipped into a straight jacket and told you must go and pass this. Parliament was reconvened in December, just close to Christmas.
What I'm
to
saying,
come and pass this amendment.
I think now
you can see the mischief.
I think you are missing the point.
Not just clear.
You can't come here and whatever negotiations goes behind the scenes for Jubilee or NASA, it should not be bothered.
So were Jubilee members of Parliament called to State House and whipped into passing?
I don't think so, but Jubilee members, just like any other coalition members, they do meet to discuss their issues. There is no way you can just come and say...
The bipartisan committee of Orengo and the Kiraitu Murungi, right?
Yes.
Agreed on certain issues on behalf of parliamentarians, right?
And of course, some parliamentarians, including myself, were not happy with that. And I said it here on record.
But so at what point was the bipartisan committee included in the decision at State House to go and change this part of the law?
I don't think that was involved. I don't think so. I don't remember very well. But I remember there was an issue that was brought in Parliament to do what is saying about.
Let's take a commercial break.
But what I'm worried about, is a more serious statement where it says NASA is going to win either way.
But can I?
That is a very.
Can I just put something in?
Very quickly before.
That removes the one of the ifs and so forth. The same constitution guarantees Kenyans right to access to information. We need to know what our principals want because they want to govern us. There is no you can say that's an individual. I'm also an individual. He is an individual. You are an individual. You cannot wish away proletariat.
I just wanted to very quickly before we take a commercial break. I just wanted to point out that Mheshimiwa Bariwa has contradicted himself.
How?
At first he said that we should not be going to court. We should always look for consensus and get people of
court should be allowed.
No, we should last resort.
Hold on. No, because
he said the court should be the last resort. And you should always sit down and solve things before. That's what happened in the IBC issue. Without going to court, both parts of the political divide came back and consensus agreed that we are going to change this thing and we are not going to amend it at all. It was consensus. Now you're contradicting yourself saying that consensus didn't matter and it's within your right to go and challenge the consensus.
Fair enough. We'll be taking a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll look at the issue of impunity, violation of the Constitution. Now, Jubilee is on the spot over unfair tactics. Human Rights Watch accuses the state agencies of undermining the Constitution by openly getting involved in political campaigns. Kenya Revenue Authority, the Police NGOs Coordinating Board, NCIC, that's the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, and the Electoral Agency are some of the organizations that have shown open bias towards the ruling party ahead of the 8th August polls. Shortly after this.